Thank you for watching Vintage Weights PGH. Please support the channel by purchasing apparel through the link in the description or at www.vintageweightspgh.com. Old weights, new gains, and lift history shirts are printed on high-quality next-level t-shirts, and they are available in multiple sizes and color options. Thank you for supporting the channel. So here we are in the garage, and the first thing that I need to do is just come up with a game plan and figure out how I'm going to attack restoring this, because this side looks great. I would just put some 3-in-1 oil on here and call it a day. But let's take a look at the other side. Yeah, there's the problem. So as we look at the other side, it looks as if the clear coat that was originally applied on here is just worn off at this point. As Brian said in my interview with him at Home Gym Con, the clear coat they used to use was far inferior to what they're currently using. And then we've got some bare steel that has picked up some rust. And as I'm feeling it, I don't think there's any major pitting, but it does feel a little bumpy. So we'll see what comes up. In this case, since the majority of this plate isn't really affected, I think what I'm going to do is a two-step approach. Step one, I'm going to treat this rust and get rid of it. And then step two, I'm going to try to retain the lettering that's over here, which means that I can't really grind away on this with a wire wheel. It might just grind it right off, because these aren't pressed in, these are welded in by hand at the time, being the very first weighted out plates during COVID 2020. So to be very careful with these and not, eat away at them at all, as well as just the overall condition of the plate, I think the best thing to do would be to use a naval jelly, a rust dissolver gel. In this case, I have Loctite, but there are other brands available. And this way, I don't even have to touch this side of the plate. And over on the affected side of the plate, I can apply the rust dissolver jelly. Now, this advises you to use safety gloves and to be in a well-ventilated area. My garage door is open. I'm still going to wear a mask, but let's look at some other gear you might need when working on a project like this and using a gel. Definitely going to need some gloves. I like to use glasses because if I'm painting it on, I don't want anything to flake up into my face. Even though I have the garage door open, I'm still going to throw on a light mask. It's up to your discretion. With this particular gel and with my garage door open, I feel like that's enough, but that's my own personal opinion. If you feel at all that the vapors are building up or anything like that, or lengthy time with this, I would advise a respirator. And then I need a cloth, and I need an old brush that I can brush it on with. So let's suit up here. Now, Loctite is a lot more liquidy than Evapo-Rust. If you use Evapo-Rust, I've ever used that, that's a very gelatinous substance. This is a little more liquidy. You'll see what I mean. It's still a gel. It's that nice hot pink color. And then I'll use my brush and I'll spread it around. I'm not too concerned if it gets on some of the area that's not affected, that's okay. But primarily, I want to get it all over this rust. You don't need too much from my experience on there, and you can always do a second application. As you can see, I'm not bothering with a bowl or anything like that. This stuff reminds me of, if you've ever gotten slime as a kid, that kind of kids product slime that you play around with? That's what it reminds me of, only more toxic. I believe it's phosphoric acid is the main ingredient in this particular brand. All right, we've got this pretty well coated at this point. So now, it says to wait 10 to 15 minutes, and that's just what we're gonna do. All right, it's been about 15 minutes, and now I've got my heavy duty gloves and my safety glasses, and I've got a bin with some fresh water in it, and we're gonna take the plate into the bin to rinse off all that gunk, all that gel. I never said the bin was clean. All right, get this in there. Get my little brushy brush. Give it a scrub. Now you can leave it on longer if it doesn't do the trick, and you can use multiple coats. My little, dry this off here. I'll be careful here not to set it back down on all that gunky gunk. Dang. Woo. There we go. So 15 minutes with it definitely took off a lot of the rust, but there's still some work to be done. It's also becoming clear to me that this will need to be polished to blend in with the rest of this. So I'm going to do one more treatment with the gel, the rust removal gel, to get the rest of the rust off. Then I think I'll hit it with some oil, 3-in-1 oil, let it sit overnight, and then we'll start the polishing tomorrow to try to blend this in with the rest. I let the plate sit overnight, and now we're going to polish it. So as you can see over here, I put 3-in-1 on and just let it sit, but all this area, even though the rust has been removed, is still quite different, and it feels pitted and whatnot, at least slightly, and discolored. So we're going to polish and blend. What do we need to do that? Well, I set up a little backsplash here, and you might notice my primitive setup here in my garage on the floor with some cardboard. That's why I'm selling t-shirts. So please know that the proceeds from those t-shirts and from buying supplies for your own projects through the links in the description help me to set up a better workshop here in the garage. That's my next goal. I got these nice mics I'm recording on from some proceeds, and now my next goal is to get a workbench so that I can stop sitting on this milk crate and working on cardboard. Maybe I'll still work on cardboard on the workbench. So let's get to the supplies to do this polishing. First off, first step, safety. So I've got the garage door open over there. You might hear some birds chirping in the background. It's a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh. Nice airflow, but I'm still gonna wear a mask. Anytime I grind anything or use a wheel, I prefer to wear a respirator or a mask. With the amount of polishing going on and the garage door open, personally I feel comfortable with this, but do whatever makes you feel comfortable. This is just my experience and my opinions. We've got my old school safety glasses. These are my favorite safety glasses. I used to wear slightly cheaper ones that would snap and break, but I love these. It makes me feel like an old school shop teacher. The official brush, brass brush of Vintage Weights PGH. I have no affiliation with them, but you can purchase through my Amazon affiliate link, Forney, F-O-R-N-E-Y. I love this brass brush. It is perfect. It's also the same company that I get my wire wheels from. Those are also linked through Amazon. I have a coarse wire wheel. That's the coarsest wheel, if you will. I have a fine wire wheel. And then a different company, Deco, I believe they're called, makes these Nylox wheels. So the gray, blue, and orange. And I'll work my way up through these before I even get to the wire wheels. And then when I work my way back down through these, that's when I'll be doing most of what you would consider the polishing. I have gloves that I'll put on, of course, and before I even get the plate over here, I'm going to wipe it down with a microfiber cloth to get most of the oil off of it, because otherwise you're just kind of spraying everywhere. It helps, I've found, when polishing, to not completely dry polish, if you will, to have a little bit of oil on there. So that's why this just cursory wipe down of the plate right to polishing tends to yield a pretty good outcome. So let's get to it. I'll speed up the reel and we'll see how this all works out. Hey Brian, so rust is off and I've started to polish here. This used to look like this, but you can see there's some deep scratches that just, no matter how much I polish, aren't going to come out. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about was, there's some spots like this that I'm pretty sure were just part of the steel, even when you clear coated it. Does that seem about right to you? Because on the front there's some spots like this too, but the front is pretty clean. So my plan right now is to get this bare steel all polished to look like this, but to leave some smaller spots that were inherent to the steel the way they are, and it'll be a good representation of your very first plate. Let me know what you think. This is a fun one. All right, Brian, took some trial and error, but I managed to keep all the welds while being able to shine it. It's got a light coat of oil on it right now. I'm gonna let it sit overnight, and then I'll come back and wipe it down and polish it up. And here's the comparison. On the right, I have a brand new weighted out plate, and then check this out. This is the one I restored on the left. Thanks so much for this opportunity, Brian. This is Vintage Weights, PGH.